Today I'm going to be sharing with you the biggest mistake that I made when painting my first door hanger. It's almost 11 years ago that I painted my first door hanger. I had a group of girlfriends over for the night. We did something called a Pinterest party, which I think I was the one to invent, if I'm being honest. Totally kidding. I had seen these things called door hangers on Pinterest. I didn't even know what a door hanger was at the time, but I just knew it was these really cute wooden signs that people were painting and hanging on their doors. And so I started pinning a bunch of them on Pinterest, and I saw some that were snowmen, and I thought, hey, I could probably draw a snowman. Back then, there was no such thing as a door hanger template, let alone a door hanger tutorial. There was hardly anything out there as far as resources. So I set out to try to figure out what kind of wood should I use. I messaged a few of these people who do door hangers, and I was asking, hey, do you mind sharing what kind of wood I should get if I want to create one of these? No one was willing to share with me the kind of wood that they use, the kind of paint they use. It was all being gate kept at that time. So I went off to Lowe's myself and picked out the wood, and then I didn't even know how to cut out a door hanger, but I set the wood up on some sawhorses in my parents' driveway. And I asked my dad to get out his jigsaw and show me how to cut out this snowman. I had hand drawn the first one on a piece of plywood with a pencil and a large pink eraser. And I did a lot of erasing before I got the shape to look something like a snowman. And so I drew out the first one. My dad cut the first one. And then after we looked at it, we were like, okay, I think we need to trim a little off here, a little off there. We traced it on the wood multiple times, and I set out to cut the rest of them. Now, the thing that I didn't realize was that the wood that I had gotten was so heavy. I think I ended up getting like 3/8 inch thick plywood. So not only was it too thick and heavy, but it was also pressed in like thick layers. And so the actual door hanger was quite a bit thicker than the door hanger blanks that I use today. So it was pretty heavy hanging on the door. It didn't cut very smoothly. So that's probably the number one mistake that I made, was starting off with the wrong kind of wood. Now, anytime anybody asks me, what kind of wood would you use for a door hanger? Of course, I'm going to recommend that you start with 1/4 inch thick MDF, which is medium density fiberboard, or 1/4 inch plywood underlayment. So it depends on where you're shopping, whether that's Lowe's, Home Depot, Menards. Look and see what you can find, whether it's MDF or plywood underlayment. Birch plywood's pretty nice, but it's a lot more expensive. And so the plywood underlayment is a good alternative cost-wise. The MDF is really difficult to find. MDF is what we use on our door hanger blanks now, but we've been doing this for more than 10 years, and we purchase our MDF by the pallet load, like it comes on a freight truck. So we don't buy it from any of the big box stores now. But that's beside the point. This was one of the biggest mistakes that I had made in the beginning, was using the wrong kind of wood. It made it more difficult to paint, more difficult to cut, just more difficult in general, and it was just heavier. And so I don't want you to experience that. I want you to start off with the right kind of materials. And so that's why I have all kinds of videos here on my YouTube channel and over on my blog. I'm not gatekeeping anything, sharing with you the kind of wood you should be using, the kind of paint, the kind of brushes, walking you through these tutorials step by step, because there were no resources like this back when I started door hanger painting. And so now that I've kind of gotten the hang of things, I want to share it all with you. And while I was super proud of that original snowman door hanger, and a lot of the ladies at the party really loved how theirs turned out, I did kind of feel like, okay, now that this turned out pretty good, let me go back to Lowe's and see what other kinds of wood they offer, because I think I could probably go with something that was a little lighter. So I did a little bit of shopping around and did find a wood that worked a lot better for me, which at Lowe's is called Revolution plywood. I used it a lot in the beginning days when I was still hand cutting every door hanger piece by piece using a jigsaw. Another thing that was probably a mistake for me in the beginning was using cheap paints. So I was just getting what I could afford at the time. I was getting like the apple barrel paints from Walmart, and those do work just fine if that's all you can afford. But now that I can afford nicer, higher quality paints, I do like using the DecoArt Americana paints. I get a more even coverage. I get more consistency in the color. There was just colors once in a while from that apple barrel line that I would pull out at a paint party, and perhaps they had gotten warm in my car, and then they would just pour out like liquid. It was like the consistency didn't stay the same. They got watered down, and they just didn't hold up over time. And so that is another tip that I'll share with you, is that Even though you might go with cheaper paints, that doesn't mean that you're going to have the same quality and experience that you'll have if you go with a little bit more of a nicer paint. If you're just starting out painting door hangers and you're experiencing little difficulties like this, like maybe you bought the wrong kind of wood, or maybe you are working with cheap paints, or maybe you just you're stumbling through this process, I want to encourage you to hit the subscribe button here on my channel. Check out some of my other videos. Head on over to my blog. You might just find all the answers that you're looking for in the things that you're struggling with getting started with door hanger painting. I've been doing this a long time. I've taught paint parties. I've done craft shows. I've taught online. I've seen and done it all when it comes to door hanger painting. And so I'm here to be a resource for you. So if there is a topic you would like for us to cover here on this YouTube channel, feel free to drop it down in the comments and let me know, and we will make a future video all about that. But for now, thank you for joining me and happy painting.